Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, Madam Titi.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure people will be trickling in as we go on. So I'm just going to briefly introduce her. She's the Oga at the top of DSVRT, so Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence team. She has a lot of experience dealing with domestic and sexual violence. I'm sure she's dealt with over 1,000 cases. So there's nothing new that anyone would say or ask today that she wouldn't have an answer to. And yeah, I'm going to be sharing the slides because I have the slides. I'll be sharing the slides so that you guys can see. So she's going to be taking us through domestic and sexual violence, the effects and your rights. So all it is that you need to know. I also have someone that I've brought here who is a victim of domestic and sexual violence. So when she's done with her presentation, she would say her story and then we can have like a question and answer session. This session usually lasts for 2 hours. I didn't tell Madam Titi, so we're going to ambush her so that she doesn't run away. But I'm sure a lot of people will have, questions to ask. So please, we'll try maybe not to exhaust the 2 hours, but please, this topic is very, very important, especially because of what is going on right now. I'm sure a lot of people have, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions to ask. So I'm going to be swiping. This is so confusing when you're sharing. Oh God. So, okay, I think this is the presentation. So Madam Titi, you can quickly introduce yourself and then we'll start the presentation.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Lola. I'm a legal practitioner and I'm a public administrator. Currently, I serve as the coordinator of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. I've been doing this for 6 years now. Yes, 6 years. So this evening, I'm supposed to share on domestic and sexual violence, the effects and your rights. So if you're ready, I can proceed.
Yes, you can proceed, please.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So very briefly, we'll share definition of key concepts of gender-based violence, sexual assault, domestic violence, and rape. We'll also look at the risk factors and consequences of sexual violence, the effect and impact of domestic violence on children and survivors, why domestic and sexual assault is underreported, and the general beliefs associated with domestic and sexual assault. Next slide, please. So what is gender-based violence? Gender-based violence is any act of violence that results in or likely to result in physical, sexual, or psychosocial harm or suffering to women, including threats of such act, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty. Now, this definition is from the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women in 1993. Please take note of the words that are highlighted in red. So physical, sexual, or psychosocial harm, and it includes threats of such act, coercion, or arbitrary deprivations. GBV, as we normally refer to it, is a form of violence that is directed and inflicted upon a person solely for his or her gender. So it's done because the person, most times, is a woman. Now, we say that although both women and men experience violence, the statistics show that the risk factors, patterns, and consequences of violence against women are different than violence against men. Unfortunately, many cultures and beliefs, norms, and social institutions legitimize and therefore perpetuate gender-based violence. We have such a patriarchal society that sexual and gender-based violence, gender inequality is ingrained into our very fabric. And so people have just been brought up to think that the woman is inferior to the man. So let's look at some myths that are usually associated with rape. Only bad girls get raped. Is this true? No, it's not. And I don't even know what the definition of bad is. Mode of dressing determines whether a woman will be raped. This is such a myth. And we actually have scientific data to back this up. In 2016, we engaged sex convicts, over 140 people that have been convicted for a sexual related offense. And none of them said it was because of what their victim wore. That was what made them to sexually abuse them. So it's a myth. And it's not just peculiar to us in Lagos or Nigeria. It's a global phenomenon. There's a myth also that some girls ask for it, maybe because the way they were dressed, or because they went to the hotel, or they went to the house or whatever. So she asked for it. Nobody asks to be raped, right? Individuals who commit rape are mentally ill or psychotic and cannot help themselves. So basically, they are overpowered with this sexual urge. They just have to rape. It's a myth. Rape is not about sex. It's about power and it's about control. If the victim did not physically struggle with or fight the rapist, it wasn't really rape. It's a myth as well. Some people say, oh, you didn't fight, you didn't shout, you didn't scratch, you didn't bite. Maybe you enjoyed it. People react differently. I had a lady, let me not digress, let me focus.
No, you can give examples.
Okay, so I actually had a lady, it's a very pathetic case. It happened in one of the premier universities. She got into his car under the guise of, he said he wanted to drop her off at her hostel. And as soon as she got into the car, she strapped her seatbelt and he said to her, I have a gun in the back. If you scream, I'm going to shoot you. And she froze. He drove her out of the university, got to an alley, sexually abused her through the anus and through her vagina, and then took pictures of her. Took her nude pictures. And when I was speaking to her later, I was wondering, okay, you got to the security point, they were about to exit the university. And I was just thinking, obviously, I didn't tell her that, oh, couldn't you have screamed? Couldn't you have beckoned at the security official? But then people react differently. Some people freeze. Immediately there's this threat or this perceived threat to one's life. I had another client that she was about to be raped and immediately her period came. So people react differently. Most perpetrators are strangers to their victims. That's not true. We have statistics that show that 90% of survivors of sexual violence know their assailant. When women say no, they really mean yes. I mean, well, I think maybe women also should mean what they say and say what they mean. It might be, what's it called, an argument for another day. But there is that misconception that, oh, if she's saying no, she really, really means yes. She wants you to convince her to say yes. Okay, so risk factors and consequences of sexual assault. We go to unwanted pregnancies. 2 days ago, we had a 16-year-old girl that was gang raped, and as a result of the gang rape, she got pregnant and she delivered. She was delivered of a baby girl. The girl is 16 years old. When we saw her, she was on the streets of Lagos, 40 weeks pregnant. So it was a mandated reporter that saw her and alerted the authorities. So, of course, unwanted pregnancies is a consequence of sexual assault. Unsafe abortion. People, they get pregnant as a result of it and they cannot stand the shame, or they don't even want to confide in family members. So they go up, they employ the services of quack health practitioners, and they have unsafe abortions. Migraines, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorders, injuries, sexually transmitted infections, diseases, and all of that. Those are some consequences of sexual assault. Okay, so now we have these images of forms of gender-based violence. The first one, we can see a woman trying to strangle a man, just physical. You see the second one to my right, a man beating his wife or beating the woman. The third one is the words that are coming out from the man's mouth are actually inflicting pain on the woman. And then, of course, the child that is being physically abused, verbally abused by caregivers. Okay, so what is sexual assault? So sexual assault is any type of sexual contact or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. That is sexual assault. Note that the key words there: consent, so there is lack of consent, and there is a sexual contact. So there must be sexual contact, and the person that is on the receiving end does not consent to that contact.
Now, rape is a form of assault, but not all sexual assaults are rape. So sexual assault violence is a generic umbrella term for all things sexual violence. But under sexual violence, you have defilement, you have... Now, rape, according to the law, is defined as unlawful sex between a man and a woman above the age of 18 years old without her consent. So this issue of consent comes up again. And in Lagos, the punishment for rape is life imprisonment. So let me break it down. In law, we call it actus reus, the ingredients of the offense. It must be a man, the alleged perpetrator. It must be done to a woman or a girl. Be sexual intercourse, and we must have the use of the male genitalia, female genitalia. That is, check where you placed your device. Okay, my device is on my laptop.
I think just ignore the comments because people. But if not, you'll be distracted.
Okay. No, even the echo is distracting actually. So sorry. I don't know why I'm echoing. I'm so sorry.
Sorry,
okay,
guys.
So that's having unlawful sex between a man and a woman without their consent. Now I have a question. Can a husband rape his wife under the law? Where was interacting, but because of, we may not be able to do. Now, we know that it's for a husband to have sexual intercourse with his wife without her consent. We know. I get those cases in the office. In fact, because of the struggle, if the woman is refusing to give in, then there's some class burst, some fight, and then he actually goes in and has his way with her. So that we know that it happens. But under the law, does the law recognize marital rape? The answer is no, under the law. That section of rape, sub 3, 260 sub 3 actually provides that sexual intercourse between a husband and wife shall not be unlawful. So under the law, a wife say her husband raped her. However, we have what we call modern rape, section 59, which is unlawful assault by, and that section provides that any person who penetrates sexually the anus, vagina, or any other in the body of that person with a part of the body or anything else without the consent of the person is guilty of a felony and liable to imprisonment for life. Now, we call it modern rape because here, you notice, we don't need the male genitalia or the female genitalia. It can be with anything. I had cases of female chaperones inserting pencils into children's vagina. I've had cases of inserting wood or bottles inside the vagina of a person, of a woman. I've had instances of inserting the male genitalia into the anus of a child. So that will not be captured under rape, but it is captured under sexual assault by penetration. And you notice that this section is not a respecter of relationship. So a wife can actually say that her husband sexually assaulted her. And the beauty of it is that this section carries the same punishment as rape, which is life imprisonment. Have I seen anybody pursue an action under this the past 6 years? I haven't. But perhaps it's because people are not aware that, you know, this section applies to married women as well. Now, let's go to domestic violence. What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is an act of violence or abuse carried out by a person against another person in a cohabiting relationship, i.e., husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, domestic staff and employer, parents and children, with the intention to control and dominate the other party. Please take note of the words that are italicized and underlined. Domestic violence parties cohabiting relationship, and it is solely to control and dominate the other party. Whatever they do, whatever form of abuse they embark on, it is to control and it is to dominate. Domestic violence, as provided for by the law, can be either, we are very conversational, everybody knows physical abuse, punching, kicking, stabbing, where there's blood and all that. Sexual abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, economic, financial abuse, stalking, harassment. Very quickly, economic abuse. A man drops 500 naira for his wife and 3 children for the week and expects that there will be soup. What of that would have been prepared with that 500? Comes home and there's no pot of soup. That is easy for beating. A man says to a woman, "You are not going to work. I want you to take care of the children." Okay, we're taking care of the children. I'm a graduate. I have a degree. Perhaps I was working before we got married, and you said to me I shouldn't work. There is no business plan. I'm just life is wasting away, being abused economically. That's a form of verbal abuse. I think we're conversant with stupid. You can't amount to anything good. I regret when they married you. All of that, verbal abuse. Stalking, where they would call, the client will tell me that their alleged abuser will call them and say, "Okay, who are you with? I'm in the office. Pass the phone to your colleague." They will speak to the colleague. "Oh, Emmanuel, how are you? Just to confirm that my wife is in the office." "Is your boss around?" "Oh, please pass the phone to your boss." You're harassing, you're stalking. I had this one, actually, it was a man actually that came to report a case of domestic violence. And this man had sat down in my office. He hadn't spent up to 10 minutes in my office. And his wife had called him 44 times.
Yeah.
She kept on calling him. And unfortunately, he's light skinned. So I noticed he started going red. So I asked him, "What's going on? Maybe it's an emergency." He said, "This is the woman that is calling you." She called him 44, the 45th time. I told him, "Pick that call, I put it on speaker, I want to hear." And he picked it, and he said she started off where she stopped. And the man was just like, "I can't take this anymore. I'm not abusive, I'm not physically abusive to this woman. But if she pushes me, if she continues like this, I don't even know how I'm going to react." So stalking and harassment is actually a big issue. We have some people that actually go to the place of employment, the place of business of their spouse, and go and constitute a nuisance because they know that the company would not want to be associated with such a scenario. We've had cases where women have actually been asked to go to proceed on indefinite leave, and they say under the guise of go and sort out your marital issue. But it is deliberate. The fact that this abuser went to the place of employment, of work, is to harass, is to embarrass, and is to frustrate the survivor from her means of livelihood. Note that domestic violence acts are deliberate. They are deliberate and they are well thought out by abusers. Now, what are some myths associated with domestic violence? Domestic violence is due to poverty or lack of education. That's not true. We have people that are well educated. We have people that are leaders in their different spheres, and they are experiencing domestic violence. Domestic abuse is a one-off incident. No, that's far from the truth. That's a myth. When we go further, I will speak on cycle of abuse. That is not one. Abusers are always nasty, violent men and easily identified. That is far from the truth. As they say, it doesn't show on the forehead. You have some people, when you hear their story, you'll be expecting to see some mean, big, angry-looking fellow. And you see the person, and the person looks like he cannot hurt a fly. Domestic violence only happens to poor women. That's a myth. Anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. Violence is not in respect of class, creed, age, or religion. Anybody can be a victim. Some people deserve to be hit because, you know, these women, they just run their mouth. They just keep on talking. Sometimes you just need to hit them, to correct them, you know, to reset them. It's a myth. Nobody deserves to be hit. There are ways you can communicate. The fact that you have to bring yourself so low to be a bully and beat somebody because you're trying to have your way over the person, it's wrong, and it should not be tolerated. Men who abuse are violent because they cannot control their anger and frustration. This is not true. In fact, studies have shown that the more the violence persists, the more the abuser is in control of his anger. My response to this would be, okay, you're driving. You're driving on the road. A Molue or a bus hits your car. You step out, you are so upset. You look at the conductor. You see that this conductor's eyes are red. Perhaps he's under influence. Will your immediate response be to beat? No, you will not. You will think about it. That, you know, you are the one that has something to lose here. And, you know, if this person beats you, you may be able to fight too, but this person is under the influence. So chances that this person will really beat you and beat you good. If you don't have sense, you will borrow yourself sense and you will go back into the car and you will drive off. Now, how is it possible that you can exercise that kind of restraint on the road when you meet a fellow man, but you cannot exercise that restraint when you are at home? Another example, a man has a female boss, and the female boss is very rude to him, talks to him anyhow and all of that. Yes, there might be code of conduct that he can report the bullying or whatever, but he will never raise his hand to hit that woman because he knows that once he does that, he's out of the office. He has lost his job. So you are able to exercise restraint outside. Why can't you exercise restraint in the house? Children who are raised in an abusive household but are not abused themselves, so they are not affected by the abuse. This is a myth. In fact, studies have shown that children who grow up, children who witness intimate partner violence, grow up for the boys to be physically abusive and for the girls to be attracted to men that would beat them. That is, science has shown us. That's why we have to change this narrative of I'm staying because of the children to actually I'm leaving because of the children. We will get to that. Now, am I in an abusive relationship? This is important because some people don't even know that they are in an abusive relationship. Because the abuse has been so normalized, they think that it is okay for them to be going through what they're going through. Possessiveness. Checking on you all the time to see where you are and what you're doing and who you're with. Trying to control you, where you go, who you can see, who you can talk to. You know, we have some, and it's actually a common indicator when you engage clients. Some women will say, I can't talk to any man. If I'm talking to any man, I'm sleeping with that man. I can't even say hello. It's that bad. I can't even say hello from the balcony. If I'm saying hello to a man, I'm sleeping with that man. Possessiveness. There is a tendency to think, oh, this person loves me so much. That's why this person is so possessive over me. But there's a point where you start to feel choked. That's a red flag that you might be in an abusive relationship. Quick involvement. A victim often has known or dated the abuser for a brief period of time. These are just some general tips. We know that for every general rule, there are exceptions. But typically, you see that abusers want to quickly formalize the relationship so that they don't show their true colors. Because they know if they show their true colors, if they reveal their true colors, chances are you may not want to proceed with the relationship. Jealousy, accusing you without good reason of being unfaithful. You're on Facebook, you are flirting, you are sleeping around. You are on Instagram, you're chatting with somebody. You are promiscuous. You are this, you are that. You were seen in a hotel. You were seen, my friend saw you coming out of the hotel. My friend saw you embracing this man on Snapchat. My friend saw you socializing. You are a prostitute. You are a harlot. You are this, you are that. Jealousy. Is there any proof of infidelity? Most times, no. It's a suspicion. It's a suspicion. That is a red flag that you are in an abusive relationship. Putting you down, publicly or privately, attacking your intelligence, your looks, your mental health or capabilities, constantly comparing you to others. Look at this person. She's a better wife. She's a mother. See how she holds her home. Why can't you be like this person? Some people body shame. You're fat. You're too thin. Basically trying to break your emotional well-being, because they know that if they get your mind, they've gotten you. Threats, yelling, sulking, deliberately breaking things that you value, threatening to use violence against you. I will slap you. If you talk too much, I will beat you now. You will see the other side of me. They have not done it all, but they are threatening to do it. That is an indication that you might just be in an abusive relationship. Other signs to watch out for. You feel intimidated by your partner. You cannot speak. You can't have a normal conversation. Like, you can't just sit down with your partner and discuss. You're taking important decisions. Perhaps the school the children will go to, where you would give birth if you're pregnant, the church you would go to, how in-laws come in or how in-laws visit. You can't even contribute. You are not a factor in the scheme of things. That's a sign that, you might just be in an abusive relationship. You feel isolated and, your partner prohibits you, isolates you from friends and family. Every friend is promiscuous. Every friend does not have your best interest at heart. That friend wants to lead you astray. Your family don't appreciate you. They are jealous of you. It's me and you against the world. It's deliberate. They are trying to isolate you from your support system, because these people that form your support system are the people that will normally rise up for you to support you if you are experiencing violence. Now, things you might feel in an abusive relationship. My partner isn't violent all the time. They love me. This violence is just a one-off thing. Perhaps it's because I don't cook. He has told me I should cook and set the meal on the table 6 p.m. And today I set it on the table 6:15 p.m. So maybe if I cook and set it on the table at 6:15 p.m., he will not be abusive towards me. So you give excuses. You give excuses for the violence. Some people will say things will get better. They don't mean it. It's the devil. It's the devil that is making him or her do it. It's even COVID-19, coronavirus pandemic. Everybody is so stressed. Everybody is so stressed. So he's so stressed. So that's why he's doing it. He doesn't know better. I'm sure if he knows better, he will not do it. It's a one-off thing. He slapped me once. He slapped me. And, it wasn't so bad, and I sort of deserve it. If I had not done this and that, he wouldn't have slapped me. Maybe it's my fault, As I said, maybe because I didn't put the food on the table at 6 p.m., he slapped me. So it's my fault. So next time, I will put it on the table at 6 p.m. If I leave him, he has said he's going to commit suicide. He has said he's going to kill himself. So I can't leave him. I'm the savior. I have to save him. I have to make sure that he's okay. These are some excuses that people give in an abusive relationship. Now, who is at risk? We said it. Everybody, irrespective of their socioeconomic status. Women, men, boys, girls, children, and persons with special needs. Of course, statistics show that women, girls, and children are at a higher risk of being sexually assaulted. Now, impact of domestic violence on the survivor. We said it for sexual violence. Post-traumatic stress disorders, including flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts. We have people that, because of the violence, they can't remember things anymore. Young people, they're forgetting. They're forgetting things. Depression. You're in the midst of people, yet you feel alone. Prolonged sadness. You're just sad. You're thriving, business is thriving, children are doing well in school, but you are sad. You are sad. Anxious. You hear the door, what's it called? You hear the doorknob move, or you hear the sound of his car. Your heart is jumping. You're palpitating. You kill yourself before your time. Alcohol and drug abuse, because you want to drown away your sorrows. People now become alcoholic, tend to abuse drugs. Suicidal behavior. Yes. Some people sink to that low, sink to that level where they feel, you know what is in it for me again? Let me just take my life and go and be with my creator. So people actually get suicidal. Now, this is so old, this is so critical, and this is so dear to me. Impact of domestic violence on children. A lot of the times people say, their children, they will forget about it. It doesn't have any impact on them. They would outgrow it. No, 1,000 times no. Children that witness intimate partner violence are affected themselves, either physically, emotionally, or psychologically. Children who grow up observing their mothers being abused, especially by their fathers, grow up with a role model of intimate relationships in which one person uses intimidation and violence over the other person to get their way. And that is why, if you're privileged to engage alleged abusers, if they are vulnerable enough to open up, most times they will tell you that is how they saw their fathers treat their mothers, or that is how they saw the father figure role model in their lives treat the female role models in their lives. So this is what they saw. And so they take that belief, that mindset, that norm, they take it and bring it into marriage. And they're having an argument with their wife, and they're trying to express themselves. And the next thing is they are removing their belt and they're giving the wife some lashes. Because that is what they saw their father do. And the mother remained in that relationship. The parents did not provide psychosocial support. Children do what they see, not what you tell them to do. So it is a very... Domestic violence has a very, very damning effect on children. Low self-esteem. They may regress to early stages of development. A child that had stopped bedwetting, all of a sudden the child resumes bedwetting. They express anger. This is so true. They express anger in a way that is violent. I had a case, a lady, she said she had experienced violence for 10 years. She was saying she would report, she never did. One fine day, she saw her 2 children playing in the parlor. The other one went to the kitchen, got a knife, and pushed the little one on the floor, and held the knife on the little one's neck and was like, "I will kill you today. I will kill you today." So basically, rehashing what they see daddy and mommy do. The woman said at that point she knew that no, this is too much. That to the extent where our children are now practicing what they are seeing, there's a need for us to get the authorities involved. So that was the reason why she came to report the case. Inability to learn at school. constant fear or expressing feelings. A child that used to be calm, peaceful, all of a sudden the child is rebelling. The child is angry. The child is exhibiting violence. That's not the time to beat the child. You need to know what went wrong. Why is the child behaving that way? Is that the child's own way of shouting for help? The negative impact on violence, negative impact of domestic violence on children cannot be overemphasized. Now, it is still domestic violence if the incidents of physical abuse seem minor. I've had some women that will say, it's just a slap. It's just a slap. It's just a slap on the cheek. You know, he didn't punch me. He didn't pound me. He didn't kick me. He just slapped me. Forgetting that a slap can actually lead to death. Incidents of physical abuse have only occurred 1 or 2 times in the relationship. It's still violence. It's not until it's 100 times before you know this is violence. Once amounts to violence. The physical assault stopped when you became passive and you gave up your right to express yourself. We have some people that switch to survivor mode because they know that if I talk too much, if I raise my voice, he's raising his voice. So they just condition themselves not to say anything. So they just keep quiet and they're just listening, they're just listening. They can't express themselves because they know if they say something, the next thing is bas both. So this is how they have conditioned themselves and they are existing, they are not living. And because they are not being beaten, some may think that, okay, they are not experiencing violence. There has not been any physical violence. But there are other things: emotional violence, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, harassment, stalking. But he hasn't laid his hands on you. It is still violence. Don't forget that physical abuse is just one of the various forms of domestic violence. Yes, I think I've said this, recognizing the signs. I've mentioned that. Now, why does domestic violence happen? 4 major reasons. 1, abusive past. We said it before. Children who witness intimate partner violence grow up to perpetrate it. So they have abusive past. They did not receive psychosocial support. This is not to excuse them, but if you want to address an issue, you should try and address it from the root cause. So you are not treating the wound. You are trying to find out what is causing that wound. If you get to the root cause, the chances are you may be able to solve the problem. Abusive past. Control and domination. The abuser wants to control and dominate. I want to say jump and you should tell me how high. No arguments, nothing. I say that I want this light, this lamp to be on this table at exactly 2 p.m. I don't care what you are doing, where you are, that lamp must be on the table. Victim mentality. Majority of abusers, they blame everybody but themselves. If you had put the lamp on the table at 2 p.m., I would not have done it. They blame everybody. It is never their fault. It is always the victim's fault. Why do people stay in abusive? They blame the devil too. Thank you. They blame the devil. It's the devil. It's the devil. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? Financial dependence. Financial dependence. They're financially dependent on their abuser. And that is why we need to preach female empowerment. You have to be doing something. You have to have some sort of income so that when you have reached rock bottom, you can actually pick up the pieces of your life and move on. But you cannot do that if you have nothing, i.e. finances. They're financially dependent on their business. Children, people stay because of the children. I'm staying because of the children. I don't want to have a broken home. I don't want my children to be laughed at. Forgetting that situation is not conducive for those children. You are breeding children in a toxic environment. People stay because of children. Religious and cultural factors. It is against my religion. The Lord hates divorce. Does the Lord love violence? Does the Lord love violence? Is it for God's intention for people to be miserable in their marriages? I don't think so. I don't think so. Fear of the unknown. If I go, what will happen to me? That fear of the unknown has held so many people back. It has thwarted so many potentials because you don't know. You know, if you take a step, you don't know what is going to befall you. Low self-esteem. You know, the psychology of domestic violence, it's not just physical. By the time the person is experiencing violence, even their emotional state of mind has been so broken to the point where they don't even know that they deserve better. They don't even know that they deserve to be happy and they deserve to be whole. So they stay on thinking that this abusive relationship is normal. Common causes of friction. Unrealistic expectation in marriage. Oh, I could speak a whole month on that. People go into marriages for so many interesting reasons. And when they go in, they find out that, you know, this is not what I bargained for. Lack of sexual satisfaction. I think we need to speak more on this. I'm not a sex therapist. Perhaps you can get a sex therapist that will speak. But I found out that a lot of the times, the women are not being sexually satisfied. And so, perhaps because poor performance from their spouse, and maybe obviously because there is breakdown in communication, so they cannot even be open enough to speak to their husband that, you know, I don't feel fulfilled, I don't feel sexually satisfied. And then because they are not sexually satisfied, they start to withhold sex because they're like, 1 minute, and then you will just go. And me, I'm not satisfied, right? It's a cause of, because you are not, don't laugh, because you are not being fulfilled, and you're saying, I don't want. Then the men will start beating you, or they will now say you're a prostitute. Why? How do you know you are not enjoying? Oh, you know, I digress. I had a lady. She came to the office, and she was saying she had 5 children already, and she had them back to back. And this lady was like in her 30s, and she was saying, if it's to have children, oh, we can have so many children, but I'm not satisfied sexually. So the man was like, what do you mean? It's because you are a prostitute. You have been sleeping around. The woman looked at me and said, auntie, am I not a human being? Am I not supposed to know if I'm enjoying something? Because they didn't even have that communication where they can talk about the issues and, if possible, get help. There's so many ways of, you know, addressing speak to a sex therapist, use herbal methods, I don't know, use drugs, whatever. But be vulnerable enough to admit that as a man, you have a problem. You are not performing your role. You are not fulfilling or satisfying your wife. Be vulnerable enough, drop the ego, address the issue, get help. Even that main fact that you accept that you have a problem actually encourages the woman to, okay, let's even look for help. You know, it is a problem. Sorry, I had to overflow that. Lack of effective communication. Spouses are talking, they are not communicating. They're talking to each other. There's a difference. Lack of communication is a major cause of friction. Third-party interference. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, uncle-in-law, brother-in-law. Everybody knows about your business. That's not to say that if you're having issues, you shouldn't reach out and speak to someone you trust. But everything about your marriage, your relationship, there's a third-party interference. It is your mother-in-law that is dictating how you cook, how you serve the food, how you do this, how you do that. And I'm sorry, I have to talk about mother-in-laws because it's very rare that you hear father-in-laws interfere in their children's marriage. It's mostly the women and sisters-in-law, and mothers-in-law. We have to be careful as women Let's not be compounding each other's problem. Financial constraints, of course. There's sometimes where there's some financial constraints, the person does not know how to manage that lack of finances coming in. So men feel that they are in control, they have to provide for their family. And when it appears that they are unable to, if there's no communication, and if the man is not able to communicate the issues, any little thing may become an issue or a big problem. Undue pressure to remain in an abusive marriage. You have to die there. Nobody in this family has come back, from their husband's house. There is no room for you in your father's house. You stay there, you submit, you do this, you do that. Common cause of friction. Now let's go to cycle of abuse. We said, why do people remain in abusive relationships? And we talked about the fact that some people say it's a one-off thing. So there's something called cycle of abuse. And very quickly, I'll just try and explain it. So an event occurs, whether real or only imagined by the abuser, that generates feelings of anger. So for instance, an abuser sees a picture. He sees a picture on the phone. Perhaps the wife is hugging a man. So in his mind, my wife is cheating. So that is already in his mind. So it's an event. Either it is real or it's imagined. Then we move to the actual abuse. At this point, it can be physical, verbal, emotional, or sexual in nature. Now, if the abuse will stop there and will stay constant there, then most victims will find it very easy to leave and not endure the abuse. Because as soon as the physical abuse or verbal or whatever happens, if it stops there, then they can take a decision, I'm out, I'm not having this, I'm moving on, blah, blah, this, blah. But immediately after that activity, shortly after, most times, the abusers will express remorse or guilt, and they will want to apologize. They can swear it will never happen again. It's the devil, it's the work of the devil. And they will shower the victims with gifts. Now, let me tell you, abusers, domestic violence abusers, typically are wonderful gift givers. Even if they don't have money, but the attention they will shower on their abuser, on their victim, the money, the trips, you name it. If they have the money, they would spoil and pamper their victim, if they have the money. There's also make-up sex. It seems pleasurable. The woman feels that she's loved and everything. Following that, we now go to what we call the honeymoon stage. So it's a latency period, during which things appear to be good, everything is lovely, and then we go back to an event. That's why it's called the cycle of abuse. So by the time where the woman is just settling now, okay, it's like, oh, all is well now. We've talked about it. We've prayed about it. All is good. All is rosy. Perhaps 2 weeks later, event occurs again. And that's why when people say to me that my husband beats me every day, he beats me every day, it's not realistic. It's a distortion of the truth. Because if you look at the violence, there's usually a cycle. And it's very difficult that this cycle will happen within a day. Okay, so power will, it's not too clear, but we said abusers abuse so that they can be in power, maintain power and control over their abuser. They use children, as what's it called? Bargaining chip. They use isolation as well. Isolate you from your family, your support system, and the rest. Now, do you have rights if you are experiencing violence? In Lagos State, you do. We have the Protection Against Domestic Violence law that provides that it is prohibited for anybody to experience domestic violence. And if you are experiencing domestic violence, you can actually approach the court and obtain what is called a restraining order or a protection order against your husband. And that order can stop the abuser from committing any further form of violence. It can stop the abuser from enlisting the help of another person to commit such act. That order can extend to the place of residence or even the place of work of the complainant. And that order can compel a police officer to accompany the survivor to her place of her home to retrieve her personal belongings. The court can also grant orders for payment of house or mortgage, feeding allowance, school fees for the children, monthly expense and allowance. Now, if you decide to walk away, what should you do? There's what you call a safety plan. Studies have shown that abusers leave up to 5 times. They leave, they come, they leave, they come, they leave, they come, they leave, they come. And then sometimes they finally leave, or they don't leave, they become late misses. So before you decide to walk away, you have to have what is called a safety plan. So there are some key information you need to have. Important telephone numbers. We have what we call a safety plan bag, where you have your key documents, certificates, passports, whatever, important documents, and bare basic needs. It should be in a bag, readily accessible, that if you need to run, take to flight, you can immediately pick up that bag and move. Other things, your clothes, property, you can get those ones later. But you want to be able to have access to your important documents. I actually have some clients that keep those important documents in care of friends or in the bank because, they don't know, they can't anticipate, what will happen in the future. So they want to be prepared. Tell a neighbor. Tell trust about what you're experiencing. And if, they don't hear from you after a while, then come to encourage them to come up and check on you and all of that. Reach out to family and friends, rather. Speak to people. Speak to people that can help you, not people that will compound your problem. And, share relevant information to those people. Encourage them to check up on you and make sure that you're all right. And then when you do decide to leave, ensure that you have a phone. As much as possible, have we call it all those normal phones, not Android, but just basic phones that you can use to place a call. Spare change, something that you use for transport. And then, most importantly, try and have some sort of savings, if it's possible, because that savings will really help you if you decide to leave. Okay, so we said here, put together an escape bag that contains important items. Yes, so like your important, I can't overstress these documents. It's important for you to keep your credentials safely, because I have lots of situations where people leave and they're trying to have access to those documents, and the abuser is proving difficult, and they were waiting to get a court order to allow the survivor go back to the house and retrieve those documents. Now, okay, I'm wrapping up. Let's look at trends. 20% lack of prosecution. Sorry, I need to. Okay, yes. So out of the number of cases we have, only 20% are interested in prosecution. This is for domestic violence, please note, domestic violence. And then even that 20%, 18% withdraw from the court. So they don't follow suit, because nobody wants to be the one to be referred to as the one that took their husband to court and jailed their husband for domestic violence. 88% of the survivors of domestic violence did not have any real evidence, pictures, medical reports, recording, something to corroborate your allegation. Most times it's always a case of he said, she said, I didn't do it, I did it. 88% of perpetrators deny they're ever physically assaulted. In fact, some will say, Madam, if I beat her, will she be standing? If I hit her, will she be here today? In fact, Madam, if I knew your office, I would have come here before her. They deny. Then they move to, actually, it's a long time ago. Then they move to, it was 1 month, but I didn't beat her. I just pushed her. Then they move to, actually, it was a slap. Madam, let me be honest with you. We fought. They move, they just deny, and then they agree that they fought. Or there's something they always say, there's a word that abusers use? I will try and remember. It's a very interesting word. Okay, 70% of perpetrators said they were survivors of verbal and emotional abuse. 90% of the survivors were financially dependent on the abuser. 98% of the cases, perpetrators claimed that their spouse was having an affair. And that was one of the reasons why they were physically abusive. 78% of the survivors had previously approached religious institutions or family members before approaching government for help. 85% of survivors blamed third-party interference as the reason for the domestic violence. 98% of survivors remained in the abusive relationship because of the children. 74% of survivors were still interested in the relationship. They just wanted the beating to stop. So very quickly, what is Lagos State government doing? The DSV, aside from the various enactments that we have, the Protection Against Domestic Violence Law, the Criminal Law of Lagos State, the Child Rights Law of Lagos State, we went a step further to establish the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team, which is a collection of service providers that provide services to survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, including legal, psychosocial, medical, law enforcement, emergency support, empowerment. Everybody comes under one group, one umbrella, responds collectively with one, and ensures that survivors are able to receive the end-to-end or holistic support. And so it's like a one-stop shop for survivors. So I said medical assistance, legal support, prosecution, emergency assistance, psychological and psychosocial support, alternative dispute resolution in the form of mediation, and empowerment. Now, all the services of DSVRT. Very quickly, data. They say numbers don't lie. In 2016, the DSVRT attended to 450 clients. 2017, 1,044. 2018, 2,356. 2019, 2,284. Been seeing steady increase of reporting over the past 4 years. Now, contact details for DSVRT. So that's the hotline. We also have a short code, *6820#, and then we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And so in conclusion, I would just like to say that, first of all, if you're experiencing violence, or if you have experienced violence, know that it is not your fault. You are not to blame. Reporting domestic violence does not necessarily lead to prosecution of the abuser. But if there's violence, it means that something is wrong. You need to speak up, you need to speak out, and you need to get help. And remember, every domestic violence case is a potential murder case. It can be the last push, the last shove. So don't wait till it's too late. Report it and get the help that you need. I thank you all for listening.
Wow, man, that was intense. My goodness, thank you so much. I could even see the fire and the passion in your eyes. Like, it is well. By the grace of God, we'll be able to bring these numbers, down. I'd like to invite Jumoke. She's on the call. She's supposed to talk about her experience, and then we'll now take questions. I'm sure people will have questions to ask you. So, Jumoke, where are you? Are you here? Let me see. Just talk about her experience and everything. Let me unmute her. She's here. Uh-oh. Jumoke? Not allowing me unmute. Oh, Lord. Let me try this here. Uh-oh. I don't know why I can't unmute her. Okay, Jumoke, you can talk now. I've unmuted you. Jumoke? Come, let me call her.
Hello?
Okay. Ah, fantastic. I was already getting scared. Hi, Jumoke.
Hi, everyone.
So thank you for joining this call. Jumoke is someone I've known for a while. I can't remember how we met, but Jumoke is someone I've known for a while. And I asked her a few days ago if she could come and share her story with us. She's someone who has experienced domestic violence, and she was able to find her way. So Jumoke, you have the floor, so you can introduce yourself and how your journey has been.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Olajumoke Olu. A lot of people know me as Olajumoke Kiddies. So yes, I am a survivor of domestic violence. I was married. My first marriage took place 2011, and it was a terrible experience for me. So I can understand when a lot of people find it hard to get out of it, because till date, like till today, I still suffer some effects from being abused emotionally, mentally, and even physically. So now this is the thing. Any man that hits a woman would eventually kill her. And when I mean kill her, I don't mean physically, but it's either he would kill you physically, emotionally, mentally, and even sometimes like spiritually. Because then, like, if you're a spiritual person, when you're being abused, you tend to drift away from God without even realizing. Like what the lady who spoke earlier, when she said, there was something she said about when you don't, like, I guess you don't realize yourself anymore and you think that it's normal. Like when you're being abused and you think it's normal, like you're living every day thinking it's normal. So my advice to women is, if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, please leave. Like I hear people say, oh, God doesn't like divorce. Yes, God says he doesn't like divorce, but God did not say he does not like divorcees. God would rather have you alive than use your life to save a marriage. Anyway, so my own experience from being abused, I was actually 7 months pregnant. And my then husband, like my ex-husband, he punched me. And this is from nowhere. So don't think someone that has never done it before will never be able to do it, or someone that says, oh, he will never do it. Because I know how he used to speak about men who hit people. Like he would say things like, that's bad, I would never do that. Why would a man do that? Like, this is someone that hates men that hit women. So for him to have punched me from nowhere, like you would think, okay, maybe Jumoke said something, because I am extremely mouthy. So you might feel, oh, she was rude, she was this, she was that. This was a day where I didn't say anything to him. My auntie just came to the house like to settle a disagreement. He actually punched me in front of my family member, in front of my aunt. He just stood up, came towards me, and punched, like he was going to punch my face, but it landed on my chest, and then I fell. Bear in mind, I was 7 months pregnant. And like water came out of me and all. He refused to take me to the hospital. It was my auntie that had to take me to the hospital. At that point, I was in shock. Like I was in absolute shock. I couldn't believe that he had just done this to me. So even me leaving the marriage and not being there anymore, I'll tell you that it wasn't really because he hit me. Other things factored in. That's to tell you how brainwashed you can be when you're in an abusive relationship, to think that, okay, it's okay, the person will change. No, they will never change. So it will be your choice to either say, okay, I'm going to stay here, or I'm going to accept this. Like the lady that spoke earlier said, you tend to now accept it and say, okay, I will do as they say. Or I would not say anything, I would not respond, I would do whatever he tells me to do, so that you don't get that anger, you don't get him being angry, you don't get him hitting you. So automatically, he's changing you to become somebody you're not. And you're thinking, okay, it's fine, I'm okay, my marriage is working. No, your marriage is working because you're sacrificing yourself. And you're not supposed to sacrifice yourself. It's supposed to be something that is joint. You're not supposed to sacrifice your dreams. You're not supposed to sacrifice things you like. You're not supposed to sacrifice your life because you want to please somebody to make a marriage work. No. I know it is very hard. I'm telling you, till today, I'm still, like my husband today suffers so much from the effects of what my ex-husband did to me. Because people might think, oh, Jumoke, you're happy, you're healed. Yes, I might be happy. I'm still in the process of healing. I am not completely healed because I'm scared. Like some things my husband will say, it just trigger what I went through. And this is just him saying something randomly, nothing to do with anything, but is a trigger for me. One thing that helped me, and I will tell women, God is the only one that can heal you. Like there's no amount of time. I've been out of that marriage for almost 6 years now. And there are days where I cry and I still blame myself. I'm like, this is me, moved on. I have 2 more kids. I'm happy, stable, everything is fine. But I still find myself sometimes thinking, oh, was I the one that did something wrong? No, I didn't do anything wrong. But that is just the long-term effect of what abuse can do to you.
How often was the abuse? Like in terms of physical?
No, physical, I won't lie to you. Like I tell people, but now this is me saying it in such a way that makes him look good. Because I always find myself telling people, he didn't beat me, he only hit me once. He only punched me once. But that doesn't take away from the fact that from 2 or 3 months after the marriage, I was being emotionally and mentally abused. This is someone that if I don't pick up the call at the 4th ring, I probably won't hear from him for 6 months. Yes. This is someone that if I don't do things his way or I don't accept what he says, he would cut me and his kids off for months. I will give you an example. He called me one day, oh, I feel funny. A girl wants me to take her to watch a movie, 50 Shades of Grey, like he specifically told me the movie. And he wants to take the girl to watch the movie. He feels funny saying no, that is it because he's married, he can't take a girl to watch a movie. I actually thought he was joking. And I brushed it off because I felt he was looking for an excuse, you know, to get angry and cut me off again. So I did not even address it. And then he called me out of random, he called me randomly, like we already spoke, then maybe like an hour later, he called me and he was like, I'm at the movies. And I'm like, you are at the movies? He said, yes, with the girl he said he wanted to take to the movies. I can remember that day I flew in for a job in Canada. A client needed me to come to Canada to do a job for her. I froze, like I stopped and I'm like, I was in my hotel room. I'm like, what am I not doing right? Like, how can a man actually call me? Somebody I call my husband. Like, even if you're going to take a girl to watch the movies, like, what is my business? I'm in America, you're in Nigeria. Like, you could have just taken that girl to watch the movie and I probably would never have known. But because he wanted to subdue me, like he did everything, tried every way to like pull me down, and he felt, okay, this is the only way I can make her feel less of herself. You know, and it has to be his way. That's how I put it. It has to be his way. And I'm not the kind of person that you use force on. For example, when we got married, I had not finished my first degree. And he said I had to move back to Nigeria, that when did women start going to school? And I'm like, oh, your sisters are educated. You are educated. Like, why wouldn't I go to school? Why wouldn't I finish school? I had like only 3 classes left. Why would you want to do that to me? He says, choose between the school, choose between your degree and your marriage. I will tell you guys for a fact, I chose my marriage.
Jesus.
At that point, I moved back to Nigeria for a couple of months and the abuse continued. Like, he would lock me out of the bedroom and I'm like, what did I do? He'd be like, oh, when I came out of the room, I slammed the door. And that's the reason why you locked me out of the bedroom, because I slammed the door. You could have just told me, oh, Jumoke, I don't like the fact you slammed the door. Next time, don't slam the door. But when someone is evil, when there is evil, that's how I look at it. When there is evil in someone, they will find every little thing to blow up into what it's not. You know, so like women these days, we have to, or women that are married or not married, and this I'm going to say now, it's for women that find themselves in an abusive relationship. I'm begging you, your life is not worth it. It's not worth it. And I'll tell you one thing, the world is going to adjust. If you feel, oh, they'll laugh at me. People laughed at me when I left. Oh, her life will never be the same again. Oh, how will she live that kind of lifestyle? Oh, I was never interested in that kind in the lifestyle. I've always lived how I want to live. So whatever anybody saw from the outside, I didn't even know what they were looking at. This, I'll tell you, the same people are in my DM today, are in my WhatsApp today. People that cut me off, people that block me off their WhatsApp, people that block me off their Instagram because they felt, oh, my life was over. Oh, I left XYZ, I have 2 children, who will look at me? I'll tell you for a fact, I've never had the amount of men I had after me, after I had my 2 kids. I don't think in my single days, I don't think I've had that kind of men come after me. So don't ever think your life will not go on. It will be your choice, but you also have to be careful not to fall a victim of such kind of man again. You have to take your time. Some people don't take their time. Some people, I don't think I waited for too long. Because from the outside, people don't know, or people don't see that I'm a shy person, I'm an emotional person. I was brought up with love. I was brought up with so much love. And I think that's why I couldn't stay in my first marriage, because there was no, love is not gifts for me. Love is not necessarily gifts. Love is not necessarily money. Like the little things, like just for a man to have a conscience. For example, my daughter was ill. She had like rashes all over her body. I took her to Reddington. Reddington said it was heat rash. Okay, fine. The child wasn't getting better. I told this man, I need to take her for a second opinion in another hospital. He said he doesn't have money. It's funny because we know the person I'm talking about, when he doesn't have money for hospital bill, you just know that's pure wickedness. That one just knows that you love your children and you probably want your child to die. So I called my sister. My sister said, don't worry, I will fit the bill. My sister even said, I know somebody that knows their family. The hospital you're going to, they have a company account there. So when you go there, tell them that you're from the company and you know, they will see the child. Bear in mind, at that time, I was pregnant for my second child. I took my first child to the hospital. The doctor said she had German measles that could turn a child blind and deaf. Now, I was also at risk because I was pregnant. And if I had not taken the shot as a child, the child would be deformed and there was no need even giving birth to the child. Like, they should just evacuate, like take the child out of me. So they tested me and everything, and they found out that, yes, I was immune as a child. That was how I was fine. Then I sent him a message, oh, our daughter, they said she has German measles. This guy did not care. I got angry, I got upset. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to my sister's house. In fact, I'm not interested in this marriage anymore. I'm going to my sister's house. I went to my sister's house for a couple of days. He drove me to my sister's house for a couple of days just to cool off. 3 days later, or every day I was calling him for like 3-4 days, he wasn't picking up. So I told my sister, I'm like, you know what? Let me just go back home. All for me to get back home. And this man told the houseboy and the guard not to let me in. I kept calling him with my phone. He didn't pick up. So I took the houseboy's phone and I called him. And he picked up. As soon as he heard my voice, he caught it. So I'm just telling you how, like, this is just wickedness. Some people are just, I don't want to use the word evil. It's a very strong word.
They're evil, I beg.
But it's not worth it, guys. Like, if you're here, if you're listening to this today, and you're in an abusive relationship or marriage, it is not worth it. It is not worth it at all. It's not worth it. Just leave. If you're contemplating, oh, should I leave? The funny thing is, I'm not for divorce if it's workable. I'm not for divorce if you're working with somebody that is willing to work with you. I'm not for divorce if you're dealing with somebody that says, I have a problem, help me out. And I'm not saying a man that beats you or hits you. Maybe a man that keeps late nights. A man that just misbehaves, if he's recognizing it, is workable. But when a man starts hitting you, when a man starts exhibiting evil or wickedness, it is not worth it. It is not worth it. I flew all the way. He cut me off for like 6 months. I flew to Nigeria with my daughter. He did not let me in. Today, there's a friend of mine. Her name is Rachel. I owe her. I will not say I owe her. Rachel puts me in her house for 3 days. Rachel called him every day. This guy, Rachel even had to say, dude, I'm traveling. Your wife and your daughter, they are here. This guy did not respond. Nothing. Today, I'm grateful to God. It's not been easy. The easiest part of walking away is walking away. The real thing comes after you've left. I do not wish a divorce for my enemy. But is it worth your life? It's not. I'd rather you be alive going through that than be dead. I did not pick up my pieces till I told myself, you know what? Maybe I should just die. It's not worth it. I opened my door. I came out of the house. I waited on the road. I was waiting for cars. On that particular day, no car was passing. I was like, this place I come out every day and cars are always passing. Then a car started coming. I will tell you that I walked into the car. How the car did not hit me, I don't know. I cannot place it, but I walked into that car. The next thing I saw was the man came out and said, what's wrong with you? An American, why do you want to kill yourself? What's wrong with you? You're too beautiful to be doing this to yourself. And then I didn't even know my 2 girls were right behind me. So literally, I was walking to die and my children were looking at me. And the man said, are those your kids? I said, yes. And he told me, go and live for them. But to me, he said, go and live for them. And that was when I decided and I told myself, you know what? I will actually live for them. It's not about, yes, you left. Yes, the marriage is broken. At that point, it wasn't broken, but I'd left. I was still considering, should I go back? Should I not go back? It was messing with me. So if you're going through it, I totally understand. If you keep going back, I kept going back, like back and forth, back and forth. If you keep going back, I understand. But if you're listening to if you're listening to me today, I assure you that God is using me to talk to you. You cannot be making the same decision and there's no different result. You need to make another decision and so that you see a different result. That man would not change. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell you that. A man that would hit you again unless you decide to sacrifice yourself, your whole being. Meaning, if he says Y and you want to say X, you're not going to say X, you're going to say Y because you don't want him to hit you. That's not a man that has changed. A man that has changed is a man that will hear you voice out your own opinion and tell you, honey, I don't agree with you. This is my own opinion, but if that's your own opinion, fine. I mean, if that's your own opinion, fine. Please, guys, save yourself. And it's not just women. It happens to men too. There are some terrible women out there. There are some extremely terrible women out there. Does it mess with me sometimes? My head, yes, it will. But I'd rather be out of it than in it.
Someone was asking that, how did you leave eventually?
Okay, this was how I left.
Titi will come back.
This was how I left. I moved back to Nigeria for a while, and he was just exhibiting all sorts of behaviors. He locked me out of the room. He didn't want me to do my business, to run my business, to the extent that I would have to put things I want to deliver in a garbage bag and take it outside to be able to deliver my stuff. Like, he didn't want me making money at all. He would tell me, he literally, in his own words, for this marriage to work, you have to need from me. Like, you have to need from me. It has to be from me. And I considered that, to be honest. I was like, you know what, Jumoke? They said the man is the head. If he doesn't want you to work, then don't work. First of all, I told my dad, I was like, Daddy, you know, my husband said this. And my dad said, I don't have a say. He's your husband, he's your head. If he doesn't want you to work, I really don't have a say. But put your degree under your pillow. The day he doesn't give you food to eat, then you bring it out. Then you have an excuse. Then he saw that everything he says, I would agree to it. If he says don't go out, I'll stay at home. If he says don't do your business, I'll stop taking orders. Until 1 month, okay, money for the month. And this man told me he doesn't have money. Then I knew that, no, this one, you are actually, that you're pushing me. Like, you're pushing me. Anyway, so I told him, you know what, I have to run my business. Since you don't want to give me, you said, okay, you don't have money to give me my pocket money anymore, fine. Because if I should start talking now, oh, he's not giving me money, they will start. You might because of money. So I said, you know what, I don't want that song on my head. Let me run my business and make my own money myself. Let me take care of myself. At the end of the day, this man is not my father. He's my husband. His responsibility is to me, but if he decides he doesn't want to take care of me, fine. As long as he's paying his children's school fees and he's taking care of his children and giving them a roof over their head. Anyway, so I decided, you know what, I want to come to America to, you know, I ordered stuff, I need to ship them. He said, sorry, I don't have money for ticket. I said, no problem, my company will buy my ticket. Obviously, it might not be first class or business class, but my company can afford to get me on economy to America and back. He said, okay, no problem. So that a night before I was supposed to leave, he came home. I actually knelt down and I said, I'm not going to mention his name, but I said, XYZ, I'm sorry if I have offended you. I apologize. I don't know what's going on in this marriage, but I'm willing to make it work. I don't know why you're so upset and so angry with me, like for no reason. And he says, stand up, go and sit down on that chair. And I stood up and I went to sit down on the chair. And he said, okay, come here, come and sit beside me. And I stood up and I went to sit beside him. And then he said, how can I have a wife, you know, that is so beautiful and we can't have sex every day? And I'm like, you'll be having so much issues. Like, how would I even be able to even lay down and have you on me or me on you with so much tension and so much issues that we are going through? He now said, you see, that's what I'm saying. You always have something to say. He now said, anyway, you can come into the room, that we should go upstairs and I can sleep in the room that night. I said, okay, no problem. Thank you. So we're in the room and he has such a shift, like from a very mean person to an extremely nice person. And he started gisting with me. We're gisting. I was scared. I was like, what's going on? When this man becomes so nice to me like this, something terrible always happens. And then he said he wanted to go and shower. I said, okay. And he left his phone. When he was in the shower, as soon as he put on the shower, something told me to take his phone. I was like, should you take this phone or just leave? Because my dad advised me, he said, that thing you're looking for in the man's phone, you will find it there if you keep touching a man's phone. So I entered my marriage with not being snooping around and all this kind of thing. But that day I took his phone. I went straight to WhatsApp. And he has a friend that I'm also close to. So I went through the messages. This man said, I already got 2 Filipino nannies. I'm changing their school. She thinks she's independent. She can afford to travel to America. I'm going to see how she's going to enter this house when she comes back. I was like, what am I saying? And he's always used to saying, I have power. My family has power. You can't do anything, da, da, da. I just gave myself sense. I was like, if you say a word right now, Jumoke, you are finished. Because really and truly, his family has the power. I don't like that. Like, I don't joke with it. It's possible that I will probably never see my children again. So I just kept quiet. He came out, I laid on his chest. He wanted to make love. I said I wasn't in the mood, let things just flow naturally. Gisted, he slept off. As soon as he slept off, I went to the room where I keep my clothes, where I'd always been before. I just took some things, the children's school bag. I just put diaper, wipes, and stuff inside. Bear in mind, I was traveling that day. I had no intent on taking the kids. So now this is where I tell women financial independence is very important. I bought my kids their ticket that morning. I went to the Emirates office. I bought their ticket that morning. I'm sure everybody knows what it is to buy your ticket the morning of when you're traveling. And that was how I left Nigeria. And I never heard from him again.
Jesus.
The next time I heard from him, I opened the door and it was FedEx with a divorce paper. So all along, this guy had been planning to take my kids from me and divorce me under his roof. And can someone tell me if this is not God on my side? Because I don't think I had the power to have done that. I don't think I had the power to have seen that. So in a nutshell, I could have, eventually it was, he'd use the divorce to shakara me if I'll come back, but it was already too late. And I had already made up. Even me leaving, I had left. I tried to send a divorce several times. I followed through. When I'm about to sign my part, my hand will be shaking. I'll be scared. My kids will blame me tomorrow. In the Bible, a woman is not supposed to be the one. But I knelt down and I told God. Every time my prayer would be, God, turn him around. God, let him come back. God, let him pick up my phone calls. God, let things be right. For the first time, my prayer changed. And I said, God, if this is not for me, take it away. If he's not for me, take it away. Don't let him look back. If this is not for me. It was not up to 3 weeks and I got a divorce paper. And that God just sent me what it was. Because this was something, so I can understand when women can't make that move. I'm not saying take him to court. I am saying leave. It's not going to happen overnight. Till today, as we are speaking, we're still fighting for custody of the kids. Till today, as we are speaking, I left. I did not take one thing when I was leaving. I just took my bag. Because he must not know. He used to watch me, CCTV. He used to watch me from work. So he could see everything I was doing. So I couldn't start carrying boxes. I couldn't carry boxes. Sorry, guys, my son. Okay, just stay here. You know, I couldn't carry boxes, but please, just, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Anyway, that was how I left, and I gave it to God. I couldn't do it alone. I didn't have the power to do it alone. I tried to do it alone several times, but you hear this auntie, oh, your children, you don't want them to suffer. Then I told myself, what if this man gets on a private jet and he crashes? Wouldn't I leave? Wouldn't my children survive? But at the end of the day, I could not do it alone. If you're a Muslim, hold on to your Quran. If you're a Christian, I'm begging you, hold on to your Bible. Only God can heal you, and only his words can comfort you. Were there lonely nights? Oh my God. There were nights where I would cry. 2 incidents. I was changing the bulb in the house. I had this small akoti that I bought from the African store, so I stood on it and I was changing the bulb. And my daughter pulled the stool and I fell. And I sat down, I was like, hey, if I was with a man now, am I the one that will be changing bulb? And I cried and cried and cried. Second incident, I went to Target. I was on one aisle. You know, kids now, they'll rush to the toy aisle and all. So a man, was it a man or a lady, asked my older daughter, my first daughter, where's your mommy and your daddy? And my daughter said, I don't have a dad. I only have a mommy and a sister. And that was when I told myself, no. Okay, I'm talking about like moving on. That's when I told myself, no, I think I owe it to them to have a structured home. I would not say, because before I used to say, if it's not XYZ, my ex-husband, I will not move on. If God does not change him, I will not move on. No. Sometimes that person is not for you. Unfortunately, it's just a mistake or a learning process for you to be a better person for who God has said is yours. So please, guys, it's hard. It's very hard. But I know if you're a Christian, I know I've experienced God and I'm experiencing him. And I know my experience would help people avoid death and would help a lot of women avoid death. So please, it's not worth it. Your life is not worth it. There were times I wanted to take my life. There were times I would say, you know what, I'll be driving. I'll be like, let me just drive into the water. Let me just die. I don't have to go through all this. No. And all the women saying, oh, I'm staying because of my kids. No, you're lying to yourself. If you truly love your kids, you will take them out of that kind of environment. If you're just using your kids as an excuse. Unless you're the kind that you say, okay, you want to, if you decide that, okay, I want to die for my marriage, it is your choice. But you cannot be complaining to people or have people that love you be in pain because you're not making the right decision. You have to find the strength within you because everybody, every woman, you have that strength.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Tells you they are going to give you only 5,000 naira a month versus what you are worth, you would leave the job. So it's very possible that you find the strength. Some people say, that's not who I am. I can't leave. No. You can.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Like, in fact, I'm weak. It is well. So many women go through a lot, and sometimes you never know. They hide it, and it's okay to hide it sometimes because you don't want everybody to know your issues and stuff like that. But if you, like everybody has said today, if you're experiencing any of these things, try to get help. And if the help is not working, then you know that you will live, you will survive. So I'm just going to bring Auntie Titilola back. To just come and conclude. If you guys have any questions, okay, thank you for your honesty. Like, you were so honest. Like, thank you so much, and you inspire a lot of women you know, it's not easy to do what you did, and you did it anyway, and you're happy, you're happily married. And even if you don't even get married, even if you didn't get married, it wouldn't have mattered. You know, as long as you're happy, your kids are happy. That's the most important thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing with us. So, Auntie Titilola, you are on. Please, your video. Is she back? Okay, yeah, she's back. Mm-hmm.
That's
so what do you
right.
have to say about that?
I spoke on, and she spoke on practical. That was so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. You're true proof that we actually goes from a victim to a survivor. And there's truly life after domestic.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. So guys, if you have questions, you can just put the questions in the chat box, and would respond as they come up. Or you guys are okay, you don't have any questions? Any questions? What do you do when you feel okay? There's a question come from, looks like it's from a guy, Solomon Ayodele. Yeah. Miriam says she's too weak to ask. Okay, so someone is asking if you've seen any abuser genuinely change.
Oh yes. Yes, we have very few. You know, I said that majority of abusers are in denial, right? So they're saying it never happened. But the few that say, you know what, I am an abuser, and I want to get help. And you know, they are saying it not because they want the survivor to come back. They're saying it because they realize that there is a problem. They have anger management issues. And if we put them in touch with a clinical psychologist and they work on their behavior, and we watch their progress, people can actually change. If they admit there is a problem. I must put that caveat.
Okay. Someone else is saying, how do we engage boys on the issue of gender violence?
Yes, because these boys grow up violent. And so some of the things at the year's reality is to engage secondary school boys on promoting positive masculinity. What is it to be a man? You know, what is gender equality, gender equity? But you know that gender is part of sexual and gender-based violence. And so how can them be themselves, express realize that their role, they are there to protect, not to subdue the other spouse, the other gender, and just basically encourage them to blossom and flourish as boys. And so we've been doing that for the past 2 years now in secondary schools. So we have male mentors engage these young boys. Create King's Club, it's called King's Club, schools, and at least other colleagues that. So yeah, we need to do a lot of behavioral mindset programming, because these things are norms, values that are inculcated from the cradle. The child sees it, he's playing football, the sister is cooking, he comes back, puts his leg on the table, expects to be served. He goes into marriage with that mindset that the woman is a slave, I'm the king, I'm to be pampered and all of that. So we need to correct that from a very, very young age. And then as us mothers, how are you raising your boys? Are you focusing attention on the boys? Or are you focused on the girls? You're engaging the boys. Is it wrong for the boy to go into the kitchen and wash up after himself? Is it wrong for the boy to sweep? Is it wrong for the boy to be able to know, to even go to the market and negotiate? Why do we think that those things should be left to girls and girls alone? A boy is crying. Is it wrong for him to express himself? Or are you the one that will say, stop it, you are a man, don't show emotions? Even us as mothers, how are we raising our boys?
Thank you for that. Someone is saying, what about a situation when you're dating someone and he doesn't beat you, but immediately you get married, he starts to beat you? What do you do?
It's rare. There will always be signs. He may not beat you in courtship, but there will be signs. If we will be honest and truthful to ourselves, there will be signs. How does the person relate to staff, for instance? Somebody that works under them. How does the person even relate to his mother? You have people that are proud of it, that they say, nobody can talk to me. I'm fearless. Nobody can tell me what to do. That's a red flag. Because if something happens, who will you report that person to? Well, apart from God. You should have somebody that person is accountable to. So there are always red flags. Granted, they may not physically beat you, but there are red flags that you can observe during courtship. Okay. And I notice when people, just go ahead.
No, say it now, say it. Just say it.
I was going to say that when people are pregnant before marriage, it affects, it clouds their judgment. Because there are certain things that they would see that normally they would not take. But because they are already put in a family way, they just, I'm already in it, he will change, it clouds your judgment. So, let's also appreciate that fact that there are always signs. The question is, are we alive to those signs?
Okay, someone else is asking, dear auntie, what do you do when you are the one with the potential to abuse? Is there help for you?
There is. The fact that you already know that you have the potential to abuse, you can reach out. You can reach out. You can speak to a psychologist. You can speak to a behavioral therapist. You can speak to someone that would help you. We actually have some people that reach out that I have not yet abused, but I'm being pushed to the wall and I need help. So the fact that you even realize that you have the tendency to be abusive, it's good. It's good. You are honest with yourself. Just, you can reach out to a professional to help you. The same way if you're having malaria or having symptoms of malaria, you reach out to a doctor or a pharmacist. Reach out to a counselor to assist you.
And you can get that counsel from DSVRT, right?
Yes. And all our services are.
We didn't hear it too. It was breaking. No, it was breaking.
I said all our services are free. Majority of us. Let me qualify that.
Okay, someone is saying, oh, that means they were pretending. Okay, she said that. I think that's the end of the questions. Do you guys have any more questions so that we can end it? And it's actually 10 o'clock, so we're good with time. I think that's all right. We don't have any more questions. I think it's very clear what is domestic violence. The documents that you sent to me, I'll probably share with them so that they have a better understanding and they can always go back to read some of the signs of domestic violence. Someone is saying marriage is a life-altering decision. How do we choose right from the start? Did you hear?
How do we choose right from the start?
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to expectations. Why are you getting married? Right? Are you getting married because it's your friends are getting married, or they're putting pressure on you to get married, or you feel that it is your duty to complete this person? God has appointed you as the person to complete this man. Or are you getting married because you're 28, you're 30, I think it's important. Why are you getting married? If you're able to genuinely answer that question, then I think it will guide you to who you would even be attracted to. The first instance. I find that when people get into relationships, most times, because there's a lot of pressure, societal pressure, peer pressure. Oh, all your mates are married. Why are you not married? You know, your mother is telling you, I bought a Shwebi. But when will they buy my own? So there's a lot of pressure. So at that time, random people are coming. You don't even have the time to study people's character and even find out where they are from. You just immediately jump in to the relationship. So I think it's important that, and as a person, do you value yourself to the point where you know your worth and you know what you would accept and what you would not accept? What is the value of, what is the premium that is placed on marriage? Is it that if you are not married, you are not whole? You cannot even, you're not important, you don't matter? Or do you think that you are complete, you are enough without even being married? I think these are the kind of conversations we need to be having.
Okay. What help does DSVRC give women who eventually leave? Like, because I spoke to Folake earlier and she was saying that you guys work together. You know, I think she has an NGO, and I think there's like a shelter and all that. So can you just quickly touch on that, maybe 2 minutes? So if women leave, you know, who they can contact and what you guys have in place to help those kinds of women, how long they can stay for and stuff like that.
Okay, so if a survivor of domestic violence leaves their relationship, we provide legal support. If the person has children, we try to ensure that the maintenance or welfare is not disrupted, education of the child is not compromised. In the case where the survivor needs access to shelter or transit home, that is facilitated as well. Usually maximum period of 6 months. And we hope that between 6 months, survivor would have stabilized, perhaps be exposed to some skills acquisition program, or we actually have a trust fund in Lagos that survivors can access. And so just basically walk through the process with the survivor post leaving the abusive relationship. Counseling when necessary, if parties need to sit down in the round table and discuss what do we want going forward, how will you have access to the children, and all of those things are basically catered for. And then when the survivor says, you know what, I'm done, I want to file for judicial separation, I want to file for divorce, we actually have pro bono lawyers that we work with that we can refer, and they are able to access legal support.
Okay. So I think that brings us to the end of all the questions. I've not seen any new questions. Okay, someone is asking, but this is the last question that we'll take. How can a single person advise married women in abusive relationships? Because they will always tell you, you don't understand.
I don't have the answer to that question. I don't have the answer to that question. But I think it's not for that, and I think that's the difference. As a practitioner, you are not to advise. It's not your job to advise. You are to counsel. Advice is telling the person what to do. If you tell the person what to do, the person would always say, this person told me to do this and do that. But when you counsel, you give the person options available. The person will take a decision for themselves and they will run with it. So they will say, I left because I wanted to leave. Or I stayed because I wanted to stay. Not that so person told me to leave or to stay. So I think, first off, as a counselor, as a practitioner, you should not advise. You are not there in advisory capacity. You are there to counsel.
Thank you. And I love that was only the last question, because, you know, it just, you know, hits the nail on the head. So yeah, thank you everyone for sticking with us till the end. I see a lot of people also join from Instagram, and I know tomorrow they'll be blowing up my phone that they want the replay, but I'm not going to give them. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to end it now. Thank you, Titilola, for joining us this evening. I learned a lot, you know, this evening. I've been trying to learn more and more and more about, you know, domestic violence, but this evening just, you know, helped me a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people would say the same. So good night, guys. It's already late. I would continue tomorrow. Thank you.